One of the things that when I first saw this, I said, okay, here comes the repeat of the shows we had last year. Then I noticed on some of the stuff that you'd sent me over the weekend, these are brand new shows, and they're going to be premiering two good Christmas family shows. And how did we, first of all, it's the Waltons again, is it not?
Yes. In fact, last year's Waltons Homecoming was so successful that the network ordered two more, Waltons Thanksgiving and Waltons Easter. And I guess after that, we'll do 4th of July and Groundhog's Day. But for now, it's
Yes.
Waltons Thanksgiving. And we're thrilled with this new story. And I just can't tell you how responsive the audience has been to this family and faith programming that we're bringing back to the air.
Where is it going to show? On one channel will it be on, Sam?
You can see it on the CW Thanksgiving night.
On the CW on Thanksgiving
local
night.
Listings.
Great,
CW
great.
Network, yes.
Are there going to be some repeats of it in case you miss it? Is it
Yes.
is it going to be repeated?
Yes, it will be repeated as many times as you want to see it on the CW app. And you just go on that or on Hulu, which is one of the streaming services. And you can see it anytime you want, even right now you can.
Can you tell us a little bit about the outline of the show without giving a lot of stuff away?
Well, I'm going to tell you a little story. The only criticism that we got on the Waltons Homecoming was that I had cut the character of Ben. And the reason I did that is because we're trying to plant characters that could potentially become series regulars. I want this to turn into a series again. And so I cut it from 7 to 6 children. And the criticism about cutting Ben was just enormous. So I made a promise in the press that I would figure out a way to bring him back. And we brought him back. And it's a bit of a secret, but let's just say at the beginning of the movie, the Waltons have 6 children. And at the end of the movie, they have 7 children. And that should be enough to make you want to watch to see how I did it.
This is where, when you listen to this program, when you get inside information from the producer. So that's pretty darn good, more than you'd get anywhere else. Is it all the same cast? They all came back?
It's all the same cast. Bellamy Young plays Olivia Walton. And I must say, she you know her from Scandal. She was the first lady in Scandal, and she did another couple of series in addition to that, and has been on Broadway. And when she did the Waltons Homecoming, Michael Learned, who played Olivia in the original, tweeted out, "I can no longer claim to be Olivia Walton. It belongs to Bellamy Young now." And I thought that was the loveliest thing she could do. And of course, Richard Thomas, the original John Boy, hosts each of our movies and is also the voiceover narrator of the older John Boy looking back. And Logan Schroyer from This Is Us fame plays our young John Boy, and he's fantastic too.
That brings it all together too, doesn't it? It just makes it all come together. Yeah.
It's like the performer passing the baton.
Yeah. Was it done and filmed in the same location?
Yes, all the same locations. We did it outside of Atlanta in Covington, Georgia, and they were so wonderful to us there. And we found the Walton House and the church and Ike Godsey's store and the school. Everything is right there, and we just were very fortunate.
So when you take a look at the numbers and everything else from the first two, they wouldn't have come back unless they were financially a pretty good idea.
Right. And I'm really hopeful that they will want us to do a series. I've got a lot of interest in the press for us to do a series. Now I've got to get interest at the network. It all winds down to money, I'm sure, but by the time you have a cast that big, is it financially solvent? It's always about the money. And when they say it's not about the money, it's always about the money.
Yeah. Who owns that channel, Sam? CW.
Well, right now it's owned by a company out of Texas called Nexstar, and they purchased 75% of the network from Warner Brothers, where I have my overall deal, and CBS Productions. So the CW was formed 15 years ago, in a merger between Warner Brothers and CBS. So they were the owners, and now they've sold a 75% stake in it to this company in Texas called Nexstar, who have about 400 television stations, and they hope to make the CW a really true fifth network.
It's every time I mention that, people think country and Western music. They think that's what it is because it's called CW. And I thought, well, maybe way down the line, they'll change the name or something. But every time I mention it's going to be on CW, well, I thought it was country and Western music. No, it's not. It's movies. Let's talk about the
country
other one,
Western
Mountain
is
Magic.
CMT. Yeah, Mountain Magic, Dolly Parton.
Mountain Magic.
That's coming on December 1st. I had a big year this year, and I did these movies on top of each other. And Dolly Parton is starring in one of the biggest projects we've ever done together. In fact, after she saw it completely finished, she gave me the great compliment of saying, "This is the best Sam Haskell and the best Dolly Parton we could have ever had. I believe this is our finest work." And I was so touched because we worked so hard on it. It's her wonderful concept and music, and she's in every single scene and sings 19 songs, and we have this incredible story. But here's a little spoiler. The male lead of the movie is Sam Haskell. And
really?
Sam Haskell, yes, she wanted me to play myself, and I would not do it. I said, "Look, Dolly, I can't lose 30 pounds, memorize all those lines, and produce this movie all at the same time. So you're going to have to choose."
Oh, this one we got to see. Yeah.
She finally agreed to let me cast an actor to play Sam. And so Sam Haskell is played by Tom Everett Scott, who has done a million series. Tom Hanks discovered him in a film called That Thing You Do 20-something years ago. And to tell you a funny little story, Tom is about 15 years younger than I am, and tall and thin, and he really does look like me, I must say. And he learned all my mannerisms and learned, how to talk like I talk, and the whole thing. But when my grandchildren came to visit us in Dollywood, which is where we shot it, I introduced them to Mr. Tom, who's playing Poppy. I'm Poppy. And little Sam, of course, walks up and shakes his hand. "It's very nice to meet you." And little James, our 7-year-old, looked at Mr. Tom and looked back at me and looked at Mr. Tom and said, "Poppy, I think Mr. Tom must have been what you looked like before I was born."
Wow. Good casting. Good casting. So it's a true life story of how the relationship between you and Dolly Parton and the production of
Dolly, and how we put together a show, and it's all behind the scenes and mistakes and problems and sets falling apart and arguments and production meetings. It's fantastic.
Would you call it more of a documentary than a movie, or?
No, it's a movie musical.
It has a
about
storyline.
The making of a live television special with real characters played by actors. Yeah.
When we come back, I got to ask you: Will the frosty breaths be brought up in that movie? We'll talk about that.
You have a good memory,
back.
Paul Gallo.
With Sam Haskell coming up next. Hang on. She's got a great voice, Mary Haskell. Let me ask you, you said she is in the movie also, in one of the movies?
Now, she's in the Waltons Thanksgiving.
She's in the Waltons.
She plays Mrs. Abernathy, the benefactress of the whole county, and she's hilarious. She's hilarious. So you have to watch it just for that.
Let's get the times of these once more. Let's talk about the Waltons again. When is that going to be on?
The Waltons will be on this Thursday night, Thanksgiving night, at 7 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And
at 7 o'clock.
Dolly at 7 o'clock. And on December 1st, we premiere Dolly Parton's Mountain Magic Christmas at 7 Central on NBC.
On NBC. And that is, December the 1st is what? On a what?
It's a Thursday night.
It's a Thursday night. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. We'll set the recorder for both. When we talk about making movies, when we talk about making movies and everything else, and if folks don't know your history, they need to go back as a Mississippian and look at the history of of how much you were part of Hollywood and a part of the entire show business scene for so many years. For folks who don't know that, your earliest, some of your best memories back when you were with the agency and William Morris and
Right.
and leading that agency, which was the kingpin back in those days. I'm not sure where it is
Exactly.
today.
Well, it's now a part of a company called Endeavor. So they're now William
Hmm.
Morris Endeavor. And that happened about 6 months after I left. And I left in the beginning of 2005. And by the summer of '05, they had merged with another company. I miss those days. I
Yeah,
love my days of putting shows together with Ray Romano, like everybody loves Raymond, and getting the rights to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire out of England and putting that together with Regis Philbin and wonderful shows with Dick Van Dyke like Diagnosis Murder and Delta Burke and the Designing Women. I mean, I loved all those shows and had a part in all of them. And it sort of set me up to become
hmm.
the producer I am because I knew all the writers and the directors and the stars. And now I just bring them into my sandbox and play.
Must have been tough on you when you found out and everything was revealed, because I think you had some relationship too with Bill Cosby.
Yes.
You got to
Yes.
drag
And I
Cos
never,
into this.
Yeah,
I
it's
never,
part.
I
It's just
never
part of
knew
it.
that,
Yeah.
that side of him. I
Yeah.
never knew that side of him. And when all that came down, because I had talked about him in my book and
Hmm.
had put all of his shows together, I was just shocked and so saddened by the whole thing.
Well, it is because it was such a great show, and it put the African American family in a different light, and I think it meant a lot to a lot of people. And he did more damage than he thinks over the long term, but it's a sad part. But the good part was that you stayed there for how many years? 20, 25 years?
I was there 27 years. And
27 years.
I left there and wrote my book and did a 165 city tour, went all the way from, New York to Los Angeles and everything in between, and to London and
Amazing.
even to Afghanistan. Mothers and Sons really responded to the book because it was about my mother, and the Department of Defense sent me over
It was a great
with
book. Yeah.
5,000 books that were bought by Bank Plus right there in Mississippi to support me in that venture, and it was a life-changing experience.
Sam, do you ever had an actor or actress get away from you that you wish you had kind of signed a contract with and you didn't?
Yes, yes. When Nicolas Cage was 19 years old, I cast him in a pilot that we did for ABC. I was only 26 years old. He was 19. And he came to me after that pilot and wanted me to represent him. But he was just an unknown at that time. And I was a young agent trying to find a star to get my notice. And I'm so sorry to this day that I passed that up, because Academy Awards and Emmy Awards, and I mean, Nicolas
Yeah.
Cage became one of the greatest. But I did have that opportunity and I passed it up.
I guess it'd be a little bit like the music business, but the film industry has changed about as much as the music business since the days you were there.
Yes, it absolutely has.
And not all for the good
And
sometimes.
no, and I tell you, with the streamers that have come into our
Hmm.
lives, a lot of the studios are spending all this money on these films, and not only have the box office numbers dropped off, but there's an opportunity then to put the movies onto the streamers. So, Netflix may make a deal with a movie chain to put it out for a little while and then put it back on Netflix to get their money balanced out, because these films are still costing between 75
Yeah.
and $100 million, and they've got to find a way to recoup that money. And the only way is to either put butts in the seats or to put it on a streamer where you get all these airings out of it.
You think that's going to implode sooner or later, though? I mean, it seems that, like you said, and they're spending a heck of a lot of money. Some of these series never come back. They're supposed to come back. They don't. They look at the bottom line and they just say, forget it. And you're left without the ending on some of these things. But again, money talks, as you said.
Well, it does, and it's all about content. And The reason I don't think the streamers will ever explode and go away is because they are able to purchase all this content, all these series that have gone off the air that are sitting there, and instead of gathering dust, they put them back onto their service and spend a lot of money with the production companies and the studios to get the rights to those. And a lot of the studios are now forming their own streaming companies, like NBC Universal has Peacock, and Warner Brothers has HBO and HBO Max, and Disney has Disney Plus. So they're able to take all their own products and continue to make money off of them by putting them onto their streaming services.
It's a different world out there. People are still waiting for that cafeteria plan to go and select what they want to. I think we're getting closer to that, but it's the amount of what we can choose from is daunting now from what it was when you and I grew up. Me and Shaw, you up in Northeast. What was it?
I was in Amory.
Amory.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
you had more channels than I did, though.
I could only get 2 channels until I was 11 years old. I got CBS and NBC, and we didn't get ABC until I was 11. So, you know, and if I could get to see the $1 Million movie on a Saturday night, that was incredible.
They didn't even have it playing at the drugstore at that time, did they?
No. And I mean, you know, it was amazing. And when we got color television, you know, I'm so old. I remember when we got our first color television when I was 10 years old. Yeah. And I remember
Perez and I were talking about that yesterday. That television, when we really got color, was more. We bought a piece of furniture with a television set inside of it, and it was called Magnavox.
It was like a console. Yes. It was a console.
Yes.
And we had a Zenith, and Zenith had real oak in their console. But I remember getting to watch my favorite show in color, Bonanza. It was the greatest thing in the world to see it in color.
Yes. Remember, here we go, Perez. Remember the remote control. It wasn't done digitally. It actually turned. No, I mean, after the remote control, which was about the size of a small refrigerator sometimes, but the remote control, when you did it, you actually saw the knob, and you could hear it clink, clink. It actually turned the knob.
Yes.
I mean, that was okay, that's enough memory lane. Here we go.
Kids today don't know how lucky they are.
You got that right. One more time, Mountain Magic Christmas is brand new. It's Dolly Parton, Sam Haskell's life. It's going to be one you do not want to miss. It'll be on NBC December the 1st. Is that right, December the 1st? Is it also on again at 21st? It's replayed on the 21st.
They're so thrilled with it, they've already scheduled the encore.
Very good. And this Thursday, we will have the Waltons return. And it's going to be on at 7 o'clock. Waltons Thanksgiving.
Yes,
Well, tell Mary we said from Perez and I and the whole family, we said happy Thanksgiving, and it's good seeing you. Look forward to seeing you back in the studio.
To all of you. I appreciate you, Paul. Appreciate you, Perez.
Have a great one.